All right, this lady's name is Sarah. Real example, but different name for the camera. This is a live deal still that I'm working.
What do you mean live? Haven't secured it yet?
Yeah, she's a little indecisive.
Okay.
All right, long story short, Sarah has been getting scammed. Sarah owns a house in Paloma Lake, really nice neighborhood in Round Rock. It was built in like 2017. Her husband died 5 years ago. And she's got a daughter. She's already graduated high school. Sarah works at a elementary school in Round Rock. She moved here from Pennsylvania a while ago because they just love Round Rock. They like this area. Really nice lady. She called us because she wants a $65,000 loan. She found us on Google or a website or something. She called us. She wants a $65,000 loan, and in 1 week she'll pay us back 90 grand. We're like, okay, that's interesting. And so we dive into it a little bit more. Why do you need the loan? Well, she's got this investment account. Her fiance has this investment account for her that's got $16 million in it, and she has to pay 65 grand as a fee in order for the investment account to release the $16 million from it. So we give her the 65 grand, 16 million gets released, she gets 16 million, she pays us back 90, all good, she gets her money. I'm like, okay, that's very odd and interesting. She's willing to put her house up for collateral. I live in the area, so I know the area. Really nice house. She owes $368,000 on it. It needs a little bit of work, not much. She's got 2 huskies, so the dogs, you know, like chew this or up, chew this, that up, but it's not a lot of work. It's a really nice house. It's worth about $530K.
As is?
You maybe put like 5 grand into it.
Okay.
To sprucing it up.
What's the 368 again?
Her balance.
Loan back.
Okay.
All right, I look into the loan situation. And at first I wrote this off. At first I was like, this lady's crazy. Just send her to a hard money lender. You know, maybe they'll do the loan for her. And our sales manager, Chris, he's like, no, I think you should look into this a little bit more. She keeps calling, she's emailing. I was like, okay, let's get on a call with her. I get on a call with her, and she tells us more about this investment account and blah, 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 and her fiance. And I'm like, this doesn't add up. Chris and I are like, this sounds sketchy, you know. Chris says, I think she might be getting scammed. And I was like, huh. So I'm like, hey, can you forward me the emails from you and this bank that you're talking to that has your 16 million? Like, send me the email because I want to see. I just want to look into it. So I want to look at the email address. I want to look at the email signature. I want to like look them up. She forwards it, and the email is from a Gmail. I'm like, well, that, you know, I was like, that's not normal. And so I call her, and I'm getting more information. I'm trying to tread lightly because she's very emotional about this. She's dead serious about the 16 million she's getting. And I'm asking her questions. I'm like, you know, how'd you meet your fiance? She says, well, he's in the military. I met him online. I was like, oh, have you ever met him? You know, does he ever come visit you down here? I'm trying to like ask questions to get my answers without like offending her. And she's like, no, he's never come. I was like, oh, do you ever go visit him? She's like, no, I've never met him in person. I'm like, oh, red flag. And so he's in the military, and she's like, yeah, he lives in Washington State, blah, blah, blah. I was like, okay, what's his name? And she tells me the guy's name. And I was like, okay, I'll look into, you know, this loan. We really want to get this done for you. I'll get back with you. So I looked the guy up, and there's like a ton of on Google about internet scams about this guy's name. For some reason, this guy gets used for these internet scams. He's a real person. But this lady, you know, she's like 60-something years old. She's kind of older lady. This guy's like young, fit, military. I'm like, this doesn't add up. Anyways, I'm like, I call her back, Sarah. I say, Sarah, I don't want to be the one to tell you this, but you're getting scammed. Do not send this person another penny.
How much did she already send him?
$200,000.
Oh my gosh.
She already sent him a few $100,000. She refinanced her home. This is her refinance balance. She sent him all that money. She put car title loans on her cars and her daughter's car, like a Jeep, and her daughter has some Toyota car. She emptied her retirement accounts. She'd sent hundreds of thousands of dollars to this guy.
I'm in the wrong business, dude.
And I asked her, I was like, how have you been sending it to him? She said, Bitcoin. So she had been sending it to him via Bitcoin. So anyways, at this point, I'm like, Sarah, you're getting scammed. I talked to her for like 30 minutes and ran her through it and showed her how she's getting scammed, how this works. They call them romance scams. Anyways, she's still skeptical. Over a couple day period, like I showed her in her accounts how she's getting scammed, how there's no money there. So anyways, we go meet her at her house. I'm like, look, we can figure out a way to get you, she's behind like 3 months on her mortgage. These car title loans, these are like payday loans basically. And they're about to come take her vehicles and her daughter's vehicle if she doesn't pay the balance right, so she needs some cash. So anyways, we go, I'm like, look, we can help you. I'm not giving you any money for a loan. Like, you should go file a police report. Do not send this guy any more money. But I see some value here, right? Now, what's the most logical thing for Sarah to do right now?
Let someone take over her, or bring her.
Sell the house.
Just list it.
Sell
Get the equity, right?
recover.
118K or so she walks away with if she's willing to move out, count this as a loss. She built this custom home with her husband. Her husband was disabled. They picked out every single detail in it. This house has a tremendous amount of sentimental value to her. She doesn't care about the $118,000 worth of equity here necessarily. She knows if she sells this house and then move out, her daughter is gonna be very upset. She doesn't want to move out. She's got a lot of emotional ties to it. So we go meet her. We're sitting down with her at her kitchen table and we're like, look, the most logical thing for you to do is to sell your house. Like, list it on the market. We'll list it for you. We'll get you, $500, $530-ish, give or take, depending on what the market will pay. She's like, no, I don't want to do that. I want to stay here. Can y'all give me some sort of loan? I'm like, no, I don't want to give you a loan. Like, in a nice way, I'm telling her we can't give you a loan. There's other places out there that may, but us personally as a company are not giving you a loan in this situation. I will, however, give you $12,000 because I basically just said I'll come out to about $380 all in. Difference between balance and $12K I give her. I said, I'll give you $12K at closing. I'll take over your mortgage and I'll rent it back to you, but you have to pay a high enough rent that I cash flow. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense for us to do this. So her mortgage is $2,100. This is just principal and interest.
What's the interest?
It's like 5.5. It wasn't great, but
Should we finance it?
yeah. Monthly HOA would be $55 HOA. Taxes monthly would be $675, and insurance, I just said it'll be about $200 a month. Probably an overshoot there. I told her, look, I'll rent this back to you, but I need $3,500 a month in rent in order for me to cash flow, because we're gonna have maintenance, property taxes, insurance, property management.
Why was she behind?
Because she's been sending money to somebody in Africa or something. Huh?
He said he's retired.
No, she's active teacher. She's got to get like 2 extra jobs now to work on the side in order to.
Did her daughter not know about that?
She did. Her family knew. Her family's been telling her for a long time it's a scam. She didn't listen to any of them. All that stuff. But anyways, this is a very unique situation. I never ran into this one before. But a lot of people are in situations where it makes more sense to sell their house and to capitalize on $118,000 worth of value, but they don't want to. I told her, I said, look, I'll give you $12K at closing. You have to pay me $3,500 a month in rent. We live like 2 minutes from this house. Our rent is $2,300 a month, and that's low. I've negotiated with our landlord for 3 years to not raise it a penny. But normal rent in these neighborhoods is $2,500, $2,700 a month. So she's paying, you know, $800 more than market rent in order to stay here. And so I told her, look, I'll give you $12K, I'll do all this, but you have to pay me $3,500 a month in rent, but you have to value staying in your house more than you value this $118,000 that you would get if you sold it. And she does, right? And so here is a situation that is similar to most, where listing it on the market and getting the most money for it is not that important to them, but some other emotional reason and solving some other problem is more important than that. And so in worst case scenario, and I told her, I was like, look, if you can't pay the $3,500 at any point in the future, we're gonna have to evict you and we're gonna have to sell the house. And so worst case scenario, she doesn't pay. We eat our mortgage payments and stuff for a few months, and we sell the house at 530 and capitalize on, you know, $100,000 worth of equity for a $12,000 payment, which is about, you know, 1,000% return. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So these are situations where normally people probably just like I did at first. Like I said, this lady's crazy, you know, tell her to call a hard money lender or something. But the more I looked into it, you know, I didn't have my commitment card with me. I wasn't curious enough. But the moment I opened up my curiosity and I opened my mind, you know, we were able to structure a deal. Now, she hasn't signed on the dotted line yet, but this is, you know, a potential solution to help her out.
How long did this take from like first contact to negotiating everything?
From the first time I actually spoke to her, a few days after getting the required information from her, you know, we got all the info. I realized she was getting scammed. The next day we went and met her at her house and basically offered this, you know, then, but she's just been delaying and delaying and delaying. And I hope she doesn't choose this route. I mean, it'd be great for me, but
You hope she doesn't what?
for her sake, I mean, I hope she doesn't choose this route. I hope she gets the money from family or something and doesn't have to.
As far as the thing, like, she would be paying more for rent, but we can still, I guess, you're walking into $118,000 worth of equity. That's like a big chunk.
And I'm going to be getting like a 26% cash on cash return. I'm going to get like $2,400 a year in cash flow from the $3,500.
You were charging her?
$3,500.
How much is her? Wait, no, she's paying
Once I think, so I had to create an acronym for this for me to remember this, because I'm going to write this down, is that MMITM. So if I know those numbers, right, maintenance, management, insurance, taxes, mortgage, if I know those numbers monthly, then I can ask them, right? I mean, well, the maintenance, is there a ballpark on maintenance? For cost?
It depends. Like this lady's house, probably not much, if any, throughout the year. Of course, the house is run down a lot. Old AC, old, you know, you got to kind of.
So on the lesser side, what versus the more side?
Lesser side, like $600 a year in maintenance.
Versus the more side?
5,000 plus.
It depends. Right. Management, you can figure out based off of how much rent would be, and then times it by 8%. Insurance, you could ask them. Taxes, you could ask them. And then what's their mortgage payment? So when I figure out maintenance, then I can figure out, okay, well, how much would I have to rent it for to be able to cash flow?
And one more thing you're not including there, which in your acronym?
Rent.
MMIT. Minimum C.
What's C?
Your desired cash flow.
Oh yeah.
Here's a good rule of thumb for cash flow for an Austin, Texas property. If someone wants me to put $50,000 down on a property, I'll do it if I can get $5,000 a year in cash flow. What?
So
What?
how much?
10% cash on cash return.
So how do I do that again? It's 10%.
Yeah.
So if I want 10% of the what? Of the down?
Cash invested, so down payment, yeah. And or if I gotta put $50K down and I gotta put $20K into renovations day one, then I want $7,000 a year in cash flow.
And so is that like a baseline you always go for, about 10%?
When I'm negotiating these, yeah, I try and get 10%.
So how would you figure this, the 10% on this one? The 10% of 10% down on 380?
Well,
I
what's
mean, the down percent on, oh, the 12K.
Yeah, he's only putting 12K in.
So-
You're putting 12 down, so.
it's
you want-
$100 a month,
Yeah,
but I'm actually getting like,
more.
Yeah.
Because if you can get 3,500, there's $400 right there. But,
Yeah.
after cost.
it's about like I'd be cash flowing about $250 a month.
Why the 12K?
When I sent her this offer, I sent it with a lower cash flow amount, and I was like, nah, erase, and I just increased it. So like these are just things like the more you do, the more you negotiate these on the fly. You'll know what you can get away with versus what you can't. What was your question?
I asked why the 12K.
Because I just said, well, if it's worth 500, I'd feel comfortable being all in at 380, so I'll give you 12K and I'll take over your 368 balance. And 12K is not a huge down payment or anything, so I just felt comfortable with that.
Well, when you're underwriting these deals, are you communicating with other parties or partners? Just like, hey, this numbers looks good. I'm comfortable with it.
To the seller,
I mean, in the whole process, like when you're running the numbers.
I run the seller through the whole formula together. I'm like, all right, so if your rent's this, maintenance this, management's this, taxes this, insurance that, you want me to put 50K down, so I need 5K of cash flow. That means that the most I can pay you a month for the seller finance mortgage payment is this. And so I run them through the formula so that they understand it, and I get them to agree. I'm like, Polly, what do you think your property will rent out for? 2,000, does that sound fair? He's like, yeah, that sounds fair. I'm like, okay, cool. What are your property taxes, Polly? And I make him either agree or give me the numbers that I agree with. That way, when we get to this final number here of my maximum allowable mortgage payment, he's not telling me it's bullshit. He understands why we came to this number. Does that make sense?
So,